Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attendance of this lecture, which was prepared by Marc Walton and delivered in the early 2012-13 time span concerning overtraining and how to avoid it. The horse is a large, solid-hoofed, herbivorous mammal with unique ability to adapt itself to fill any budget. Not true. Horses are expensive. Overtraining, so what? Is it a problem? All athletes have a problem of overtraining. They have to be acutely aware and alert to signs that overtraining is taking place. Dutch researcher concerning overtrained horses said 50% lost weight and body condition score, a marked increase in physiological pathologies, infections, musculoskeletal disorders, the injuries and behavioral problems were seen as a result of overtrained horses. Overtraining is one of the major risks of reduced performance capacity in sport horses with multiple consequences, and on both a technical and economic level. Professor Amato, French equine researcher today. Overtraining effects were significantly harmful to the horse's heart, musculoskeletal system and immune system by a Dutch researcher, Professor Marinus van der Pas. Overtraining, according to Professor Marc Walton, is far more damaging than undertraining. That undoubtedly is the case, but both are negative. This is the difference between Toyota owners and Land Rover owners. Overtraining and how to recognize it. Overtraining is defined as an imbalance between training and recovery. There are three types of overtraining: mechanical, metabolic, overtraining syndrome or staleness. Overtraining and how to recognize it. Burnt out is the horse's metabolism cannot keep up with the needs of the muscles and total organ function. In other words, there's been so much constant exercise and at fairly high tempo that there's organ failure and muscle lack of adaptation. Overtraining, how to recognize it. Again, it's a friendly horse turns sour. Poor appetite, going off food, eating less, eating more slowly. It gets a starry hair coat, it starts to lose weight, and it is losing condition. There's also reluctant to exercise, so they just do not have any energy. There's an elevated resting pulse rate. There's a prolonged pulse recovery post-exercise, so you can't get that heartbeat down to go and present the horse. There's a loss of speed, and there's a fading of general performance. The improvement principle is based on stress and recovery to a higher plane of fitness. If no recovery is allowed, you will break down what you have built up by causing injuries to the weakest parts, and that is very important. When a horse has been trained to a degree of fitness that it is good, if you go beyond that, you then start having breakdowns on all the weakest parts. A lack of rest is a critical factor. Not enough time for muscle tissue to recover. No time for recovery of the body's energy stores. No time for micro damage to joints and tendons and ligaments to repair. No time for psychological repair. One of the top equine physiotherapy veterinarians came out and said you should train up to a particular event, and that should be at its peak fitness. Once you have completed that event, that horse should be given several months to rest and recover. There should be no riding or extremely light riding, or basically minimum exercise and light running around in camps, etc., to allow it to slowly recover 100% back to its normal physiological condition. If we do blood tests, you always find elevated ALT and CK. You find an elevated phosphorus, which is a particularly serious one possibly. Elevated urea as a result of maybe ulcers. And you get signs of ulcers on the Succeed fecal test. You also see increased urea, you get anemia, you have distressed white cell count and less defense against immune infections, so a lowered white blood cell count. Dehydration occurs much more rapidly, and you have low levels of electrolytes. The hormonal red flags are cortisol is the stress hormone, and that if its levels are increased, it tells you that there is a stress situation in that horse, which is warning you things are going to get worse. ACTH is the main hormone which controls the release of most of the other hormones for reacting to stress, and it is then depressed. Leptin indicates that it's an appetite stimulant, but it decreases. Thyroxine, which is the hormone that largely controls metabolism, is lowered, so you get poor performance. Insulin controls blood sugar levels, and you get a lowered or reduced response to insulin. Testosterone, if it is present in a male, is lowered, indicating to you that there is suppression of hormone production. Isn't this a beautiful, heartwarming picture of a little girl who saved a fish from drowning? How long do body tissues need to adapt, and what is the condition? Heart and lungs, if they have been damaged, or if there is an element of problem in them, need about 3 months to recover and get back to normality. Muscles, 3 to 6 months. Tendons and ligaments, 6 to 12 months. Hooves, 7 months. Think of your nails. How long does it take for your nails to grow out if they are damaged? Bones, 1 to 3 years. Also recognize that horses' skeletons are really only fully grown and developed with closing of the joint sections on the long bones at about 4.5 to 5 years of age. A top endurance horse needs a minimum of 3 years of conditioning. So it is recognized that horses that are going to participate in endurance events should be already 5 years old. So they are beyond the full development of their skeleton, and thereafter they'll need at least 3 years to get into top condition. A horse can be fit enough to go fast in a relatively short period, but will not be conditioned to withstand injury. So you can get them fit fairly quickly by repeated exercise. But if there's any weak points, like for example joints or tendons, they're going to fail. How do we prevent this? There is an infinite number of training programs. Treat each horse as an individual. There's no set recipes. Every horse has a different training routine that suits them. From a human point of view, both Ruth Fordyce and Nick Bester were two of South Africa's best successful endurance athletes at the Comrades specifically, and had totally different training programs, yet both performed successfully. So it shows you two different people, two different body size, body formats, and they had completely different training programs. If you're building up a 160-kilometer horse, you must do that particularly slowly. Also recognize that the 160-kilometer is the standard distance for an endurance race in the world. So firstly, you need to choose your horse wisely going forward. Build your horse up to 160 kilometer is a 3-year process. It's a gradual conditioning system. Progressively load the skeleton and soft tissues. Sound legs, strong heart and lungs are key ingredients to be able to be successful at 160 kilometers. Heart and lung fitness is the easy part. The muscle part is more difficult. What are the golden rules? Work on stamina. Build up the strength of the horse. Build up agility, particularly because of the uneven surfaces. Build up balance and flexibility. Build up gradually to maximum work. Do not expect short bursts of activity. Grow slowly. A stressful session should be followed by a day of recovery. Every time there is a tough session, give them a minimum of a day to recover. As you train faster and harder, more recovery days are needed. So recognize that between fairly high activity, you have to start extending the rest intervals. 10 hours per week should be a total that you spend in your build-up program. The golden rules: no more than 2 maximum stress high-intensity workouts per week. 2 per week. Don't do hard workouts on consecutive days. Do not do it on consecutive days. Golden rules: train within 5 days a week maximum and give weekends off. Utilize a minimum of 2 days rest per week. Taper off the training 3 weeks prior to a ride. Get to the ride with a well-conditioned horse with body reserves. Taper off your training 3 weeks prior to the ride. Again, he's repeating it. And get to the ride with a well-conditioned horse with body reserves. A 160-kilometer ride tests the absolute soundness of a horse. You can achieve far more with a horse that is 80% fit and 100% sound than 100% fit and an unsound horse. You won't finish. In summary, overtraining is not worth it. The horse will underperform, and in fact you will put your horse in danger. That's Marianne Liversage's comment, one of the well-respected long-distance endurance riders. Special thanks to the following for sharing their lifetimes of wisdom and experience: Jaleese de Villiers, Marianne Liversage, Margaret Hobson, Kali Grunschloss, Neil Dirksen, Julie van Bedar, Sonette Burnett, Dr. William van Sale, and Dr. Paul van Dam. Thank you, Mark, for sharing this presentation with us. It is a very important warning. If there are any questions on this, I'm happy to attempt to answer them. Please can you communicate with us on email, and we will then make sure that we respond to you as quickly as possible. Thank you for your attendance.